Happy Monday. It's Renee Porsia here again. Ready to discuss, are you ready to discuss some real estate this morning? So I hope you are. I hope you have your coffee. I need my morning coffee. Take out a pen, notepad, and let's get ready to talk real estate. Today I wanted to discuss with you the importance of why I think that you shouldn't get involved in a dual agency relationship with a realtor. Many realtors will argue a lot that there's nothing wrong with dual agency. I feel differently. In real estate in Pennsylvania, the Real Estate Commission says that is not only ethical, it's legal. And so let me back up. In my last video, I discussed the importance of buyers hiring a buyer agent. Because years ago, buyers didn't have the option to hire their own realtor. They used, if the seller hired a realtor, then the buyer used the seller's agent. And now every buyer has the option to hire their own buyer agent. So if a realtor represents both sides and the buyer's using the seller's agent, then basically you're just, going back to years past and you're using the seller's agent, and that's what created this whole mess to begin with. That's why buyer agency was developed. So in thinking of it that way, there's really no reason why any buyer should want to ever use the seller's realtor. So in that aspect, I think, there's a lot wrong with dual agency. Another reason why I think dual agency is not in anybody's best interest is because once a realtor gets involved in dual agency situation, we're no longer allowed to negotiate for you. We basically become a mediator, and we have to stand on the side and basically become a paper pusher. And in real estate, if you take negotiation away from realtors, what else do we have left? Negotiation is the big part in real estate. So I can't imagine why anybody would never want their realtor to negotiate for them. If you're fine with your realtor not negotiating the lowest possible price for you, or if you're the seller, the highest possible price, then by all means, get involved in dual agency and you'll be happy. If, however, and I think this holds true for most buyers, if you want to get a home for the lowest possible price, then you certainly want to have an expert negotiator. You want your realtor to negotiate for you. And if you're a seller, you want the same. Many realtors will say, Renee, I've been involved with many dual agency situations and my buyer or seller never got hurt. Did you negotiate for them? Because if you did, somebody got hurt. One side had an advantage over the other. Not only did somebody get hurt and not realize it, but you were in violation, according to the Real Estate Commission. So that's another reason why I think dual agency is just not in your best interests. Realtors will also, at the end of the day, they get to keep the entire commission if they represent the buyer and the seller. And many realtors lose focus, and that's the only thing that they can focus on is that big payday after the long transaction. And they lose sight of who they're supposed to be protecting. And that creates a lot of issues, I believe. A realtor should only have your best interest at heart. And, getting involved in dual agency is certainly not having your best interest at heart. Another thing that realtors will argue with me over and over again is that as an office, the entire office is a dual agent. Okay, I get that. Many of you might not realize that when you have a realtor into your home to list your house, you don't realize that the realtor taking your listing, even though you're hiring that individual realtor does not own your listing. Their broker owns your listing. There's a broker of record in each real estate office, and in that real estate office, that broker has realtors working with them. And they own them all. So if I were to leave, if I take your listing and then decide to go to a different office, I simply couldn't just take your listing with me. You could contact the broker of record and say, we hired Renee and we would like Renee to take our listing with her. And the broker can then say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Renee can take your listing with them. Good luck. Or they can say, well, sorry to hear that. We're going to keep your listing in my brokerage, and we're going to assign it to a different realtor. There's other options you would have available. I'm not discussing those with you today. I'm just discussing the point that the broker owns your listing and everybody else's listings. So therefore, each and every realtor is deemed a dual agent in the office, and that's what many realtors will argue with me, saying, you're telling people that you don't practice dual agency, but yet your whole office is a dual agent. And that's true, in theory, on paper, according to the Real Estate Commission. But personally, I don't know there's like 140 agents in my office. I don't know 140 agents' sellers or their confidential information. All I know is the buyer's information. So therefore, one person doesn't have an advantage over the other. Does that make sense? So that's my argument time and time again. Yes, I get it. I understand it. But I don't agree with dual agency. I think that it should be abolished. There should be no more dual agency. There should be a seller should have their own representation. A buyer should have their own representation. That's it. None of this. I represent both sides at the end of the day. I hope this, opens your eyes, and you'll go out and do some research, and you'll think twice the next time a realtor wants to represent you, and if you're a buyer and the seller. Keep in mind too that they just can't simply become a dual agent. They have to have your written permission. So they have to go back to their seller and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you mind? I have a buyer. They're interested in your house. I'd like to show it to them. They have to get them to sign, and then you have to sign as a buyer saying, okay, I'm okay with this dual agency relationship. I'm going to say 99% of the time, realtors do not do that. That's a shame. Also, I have a lot of realtors that say to me, oh, so if you have your own listing and a buyer comes to you, what do you do? Well, I do exactly what I'm telling you. If a buyer comes to me, I will do everything in my power to discourage them from wanting to use me. If they are very insistent upon it, I'll say, I'm very flattered, but there's other agents in my office that I can refer you to. And you can also be free to go to another real estate firm and get another realtor. If both parties agree to me being a dual agent and put that in writing, I would have to think long and hard if I wanted to get involved in that. But the point would be that everybody would be involved in the decision-making process. The broker can assign, someone to represent the buyer, and then, everybody's in agreement with dual agency. There's been many lawsuits that have come from dual agency, and I believe there'll be many more to come in the future. So I hope that this opens your eyes. Do some research. Ask me if you have any questions. Feel free to email me at reneeporsia.com, reneeporsia@mac.com, and feel free to visit me on the web at www.reneeporsia.com. I want to thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I want you to go out there and make it a great day, and come back and visit me on Wednesday, and I will be talking about a new subject. So I hope this all helped for today.